Right, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Brain. Over the past few hours, a fascinating discussion has been building across the XRP community, catching the attention of even some of the market's most experienced investors. Across social media, one question continues to dominate the conversation. Is XRP quietly entering a new phase of institutional attention? What makes this discussion particularly interesting is that it isn't centered purely on price predictions or another viral social media rumor. Instead, the conversation has gradually shifted towards something much bigger: blockchain infrastructure, institutional finance, and the long-term evolution of the global financial system. But wait, that isn't even the most important part of today's story. While the majority of retail investors remain focused on daily price movements and short-term volatility, a different conversation appears to be unfolding behind the scenes. Financial institutions, regulators, and enterprise organizations continue evaluating how blockchain technology could support the next generation of financial infrastructure. If that trend continues, then many of today's headlines could simply represent the earliest stages of a much broader transformation. So make sure you stay with us until the very end of today's video, because the institutional picture we'll explore may encourage you to look at XRP and the wider digital asset industry from an entirely different perspective. One of the most fascinating aspects of financial markets is that history rarely repeats itself exactly. However, patterns often do. Every major financial revolution has followed a remarkably similar path. First, the technology is developed, then the infrastructure is built. After that, regulation gradually evolves. Only much later does the wider public realize that the financial landscape has already begun to change. Many analysts believe blockchain technology may now be moving through a comparable stage of development. Only a few years ago, digital assets were viewed primarily as speculative investments. Today, however, the conversation has expanded far beyond cryptocurrency prices. Attention is increasingly turning towards tokenized assets, cross-border settlements, enterprise payments, digital liquidity, and the infrastructure that could support future financial markets. That is one reason Ripple and the XRP ecosystem continue appearing in institutional discussions. Many industry observers argue that tomorrow's financial system will require far more than fast transaction speeds. It will require regulatory compliance, scalability, deep liquidity, operational resilience, and above all, trust. These are precisely the qualities that major financial institutions evaluate before adopting any emerging technology. Retail investors often ask one simple question: when will XRP move higher? Institutions, however, tend to ask a very different question: can this technology reliably support large-scale financial activity over the next decade? That difference in perspective creates two completely different narratives.